And we are back for part 2 for Tuesday's episode of Student of the Gun Radio. Welcome back to 2015. 2015 already? I know. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, thanks for joining us. We're looking forward to a big year here at Student of the Gun. We've got a lot going on this year. We hope that you're going to be paying close attention to us. Jared's over there on the other side of the glass case of emotion on his little in his little booth behind the curtain, and he's been working behind the scenes to enhance and improve the deliverability of our video material of the TV show. Deliverability. And how's that going over there, young man?
It's going very well. I've developed our own Roku app, so it's going to be a lot easier for you to add and find. It's in the public approval process right now, and
but it's not just going to be Roku. There's different.
No, there's a bunch of different ones. Right now, the one that I'm doing right now that I'm done with is Roku, and we've got Chromecast, we've got Apple TV, we've got Xbox Video. We're going to be on Xbox Video. Yeah,
so all you hip cats out there, all you hip cats and kittens out there, pay close attention to what's going on with Student of the Gun. Make sure that you're reading the emails, that you're reading the notifications that we send you. Jared, you're going to be using the mobile app to send them messages, right?
Yeah, I do that all the time.
So if you don't have the mobile app yet, how can they get it? Does it cost them a lot of money?
No, it's free, actually.
What?
It's free for them. And you can get it from the Google Play Store or the iTunes App Store, whatever they call that on Apple. I don't know.
Yeah. The Apple Store, the iTunes Store, the whatever.
And if you have the app, or if you don't, download it. But when you download it and when you have the app, leave us a review. Leave us a 5-star review, preferably. But
yeah.
We want an honest review because that's how I figure out what needs updated.
And we are on version 2.0 right now. We launched the first one last year in early 2014. Now it's early 2015. We're on version 2.0. And it's cleaned up some of the... Basically, the Android never had problems, did it? Galaxies and all that. They never
Mine
had
did.
problems.
My Note had problems because it's a bigger screen.
Oh.
And it wasn't. You weren't able to turn it sideways for landscape, but now you can do that.
And I think it was the iPhone 4s were having the most problems. So
yeah,
whatever. But
which is odd because the approval process for Apple is 100,000 times more in depth than the Android. Android, they don't even have an approval process. You just put it up there.
Did you see what those turkeys at and I'm being PG and family friendly, what those turkeys at Apple did with the mobile app on the page?
No.
They put a warning on there that must be 17 years of age or older to download this app.
Oh, because of the realistic violence that's not on the app.
Yeah. According to Apple, Student of the Gun Radio contains realistic violence. Right. They ain't seen nothing yet, have they? Well, all right. Let's jump into the Tuesday version of Student of the Gun Radio, and welcome to Tuesday. Now, Tuesday is Tyr's Day. Tyr's Day, yes, the Norse god of war, Tyr. I don't know if you're in Old Germanic, if you pronounce that Tyr or Tyr. Some of you old Germanic linguists, go ahead and let me know. But yeah, that's what Tuesday comes from. Did you know that, Jared?
No, actually, now I do, but I didn't before.
So today is the day named after the god of war.
I know that the days are all named after some type of god of war.
Right, or some
type of god, I mean.
Yeah, like Thor's Day and
yeah.
Tyr's Day. So, all right, so Tyr's Day, we want to thank our buddies at SWAT Fuel, swatfuel.com. Check them out. And if you're going to make a purchase there, you want to do that. And are you going to, before the end of this segment, announce the winner?
Oh, yeah.
The Get Fit in 2015
Yeah,
winner?
Let's do it at the end of this segment. That way they have to continue listening.
You have to listen all the way to the end.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to announce your name, and then you need to send me the email that says, hey, I heard my name on the radio, and I won this, so...
All right, so the Get Fit in 2015 program, and that is the SWAT Fuel It's kind of like a SWAT Fuel gift pack. You get the 9mm fat burner, the 9mm Plus P endurance formula, the 40 caliber multivitamins, T-shirt, hat, stickers, wristband, bunch of swag. So get fit in 2015, and we want you guys to be fit in 2015. And I'm going to go ahead and thank the rest of our sponsors, but then I want Jared to go ahead and tell us a little bit about what he's working on for Student of the Gun TV for 2015. So remember that. Put a pin in that, Jared.
I was actually going to talk about that, but I'll put a pin in it.
All right. So SWAT Fuel is SWATfuel.com. Check them out. Go there. Do it. You want to. You know you should. All right. And that's all that there is to say about that. Brownells at Brownells.com. If you own a gun, Brownells has something for you in their catalog. Colt at Colt.com, the makers of the LE901 rifle. And Velocity Triggers. Now, don't forget about Velocity Triggers. This week we went out, we took Jared's rifle that he assembled out there with a Velocity trigger. The trigger is the heart, the barrel is the soul, and all the rest is parts. Do us a favor. Do yourself a favor. Go over to velocitytriggers.com, and while you're there, click on their Facebook tab. They're a relatively new company. The owners have been in business for a long time, but Velocity Triggers as a brand name or a trade name is actually relatively new. So if you go to their Facebook page, give them a like. Give them a little bit of boost there. And whether it's Velocity, Brownells, Colt, SWAT Fuel, or XS sights, the fastest sights in any light, if you have the opportunity to communicate with any of these folks, let them know that you appreciate them sponsoring Student of the Gun. Because we couldn't do what it is we do without the support of our friends in the industry. So now, with all that being said, Jared's going to tell you a little bit about what we've got coming up on Student of the TV, Student of the Gun TV.
Student of the TV.
Student of the TV. Some people are students of the TV. But SOTG Television this season.
We've got what do we have planned? 4 main
well, we've
topics.
Got regular segments.
We've got regular topics that we're going to cover, and those are going to deal with what do we got? We got Rifleman
101.
We got the Beyond the Band-Aid. It's going to cover medical stuff. And we got To Be Armed, which is going to be a concealed carry thing, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, To Bear Arms.
To Bear Arms. Okay.
Yep.
Are you going to go over just concealed carry or home defense?
Well, lots of stuff. But what I want you to specifically talk about right now is I want you to talk about the fighting fitness.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
All right.
The fourth main topic that we're going to have is fitness for shooters, and I'm going to call it fighting fitness. Fitness is absolutely 100% part of being an armed citizen, and if you don't think that, then stop listening to us and go listen to somebody else.
Go listen to NPR.
Yeah. If you're not physically fit, then you need to be physically fit. And what I'm doing is I'm doing a segment on why physical fitness pertains to shooting. I'm going to open it up with that why, and then I'll go into the how. But what I want to know from you guys is, what is your main problem or concern with fitness for shooters? What questions do you have? Because I was scripting out some segments, and I have a lot of knowledge that I forgot that I had.
You forgot that you had?
It's in my memory banks back there, and I was writing it. I was like, I don't really know what to cover because there's so much. I can get in depth with so much stuff, but I want to know what you guys want to know. So ask me some questions. That way I can answer them for you. And you can send the questions. You can go to the Facebook page. I put a status up there that asks, what's your biggest question? And then, or you can email them directly to me, Jared, Jarrad, at studentofthegun.com. The email would probably be the preferred method.
Well, there you go. So look forward to that. Now, I know a lot of you guys are out there and you're like, oh, not everybody's an athlete like you, Jared. Do you have to be an athlete to be physically fit? There's different levels. I mean, there's people that are 85 years old that are physically fit.
Yeah.
And there are people that are 32 years old who are way not physically fit. It doesn't mean, when you say fighting fitness, you don't have to be an MMA fighter to be fit.
Right. What I would say is, do athletes start out as athletes? No. You work up to be an athlete. So even if you're not an athlete right now, you can be an athlete, unless you're old and brittle. But you can still be physically fit. You can't. I can't remember the quote.
You can't.
I had something good.
You had something.
It was a good motivational.
Maybe
quote.
it'll come back to you.
Yeah. But anyway, you have to start And if you're at a point right now where you know you need to start and you just don't know where to start, or you don't know how to start, or you're just scared about starting, I'm here to help you.
Well, wherever you are right now, that's your starting point.
Yeah.
You know, people say, well, I need to work out, or I need to get in better shape before I start working out. I've actually heard people say that. Well, before I start working out, I need to get into better shape.
Well, I've heard women say, before I go to the gym, I need to get in better shape. I'm like, okay, I can see where you're coming from because you're a woman and that's how you think.
Yeah, because your mind is like that.
Yeah. But like you go to the gym to get fit.
Oh, man, I tell you what. So, well, speaking of bodies and getting fit and keeping your body alive, we're going to talk about leave medical care to the pros. How many times have we heard that? And how many times have we addressed this? We've addressed the pushback that we get as good guys, as armed citizens, as from the intergalactically certified EMTs, the volunteer EMT bravos that write Facebook posts and blog posts about how you need to not be doing medical stuff because there's too much liability involved, and you need to leave that to the pros and just call 911, be a good witness, or learn CPR, and that's all you need to know. Well, folks, if you know anything about your humble host here, Paul Markle, that's all bull crap, and that's all designed to make you weak, subservient, and to make you basically a slave to someone else. Well, what do you mean, Paul? You're telling me that I can or should learn how to treat injuries and wounds? Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that if you want to be a complete armed citizen, if you want to be a citizen, not a subject, if you want to be a subject to the crown, if you want to be a tax slave, rock on. It's easy to be a tax slave. You just have to surrender. Go ahead and surrender. But if you want to be active, oh, you mean I would actually have to do something? Yes. You would actually have to put forth some type of effort. And you're like, well, I still don't believe, Paul. I still don't believe you. Well, maybe you'll believe this. Story from TheGuardian.com. And where is TheGuardian.com? Well, it's in merry old England. So if you're listening to me in merry old England, listen up, hippies. And the title of the story is, After 5-Hour Wait for Ambulance, the Sad State of Our Healthcare System. Oh, no, sorry. Our 5-hour waits for ambulances, the sad state of our healthcare system, ? By Archie Bland. And subtitle, A Teenager Lay in the Road Groaning in Pain. The response from the ambulance service raised troubling questions. Now, Jared, I thought that we in America, that we were wrong and that we needed to change our healthcare system to be more like Europe.
That's what I've heard.
And that if we would only be more reasonable and accept socialized medicine, allow the state to run the hospitals and the ambulance services and the doctor's offices, we need to allow the state control of that we would all be better off. Isn't that what we're told?
Unless you're riding a moped.
Unless you're riding a moped. It says the first sign of trouble was the sound of a smash. Have you guys ever heard...
Onomatopoeia there.
Onomatopoeia. Have you ever heard the sound of a car impacting with fiberglass? You know that fiberglass crunch?
Yeah.
I've actually heard that. I was sitting on a bench in San Diego many, many moons ago, and I heard crunch, and it was a car running into a moped, and the crunchy sound of a moped coming apart. It's very, you can tell, like, ha, 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 ha. Oh. But this is an interview from a guy. The first sign of trouble was the sound of a smash. There on my street in Kentish Town. I'm sorry. Kentish Town, North London, was a sheepish-looking teenager on a moped, another sitting down, and a third lying in the road, groaning. Otherwise, the street was deserted. At first, it appeared that the boy on his back, who I'll call Nathan, was just drunk and embarrassed. But the scream when he tried to move his legs suggested otherwise. So I called 999. That's what they do in merry old England. They call 999. It was 1:12 a.m. on Monday and 3 degrees below freezing, and that would be metric. So the events that followed are small in the scheme of things, but the inadequacies of the response to Nathan's accident raised troubling questions about the state of our ambulance services and the ground-level consequences of cuts that often seemed like political abstraction. Now, hang on a second. How do you cut medical services when the government's in charge?
Well, they want to funnel more money into their pocket, so...
Well, but I thought that's what you have to do, is to put the government in charge of health care, and it'll never run out of money. It'll be perfect. Everybody will get free doctors and free medicine and free everything, right? That's what we're told.
Find a doctor that will go through the schooling and become a doctor and then do his practice for free. Find that doctor.
Not make money?
Yeah.
Well, he's just greedy.
Well, if the schools didn't charge him for the knowledge, then he wouldn't have to charge for his services. So,
that's right. So everything in the world should be free.
Yeah, everything should be free.
All the unicorn milk you can drink. So it says, anyway, long story short, it goes on. It says, here we go. It says, once the situation was explained, the operator said he couldn't be sure when an ambulance would be available. Nathan's mates, police believe the moped was stolen, and two other neighbors, Nathan's mates left, okay, and they think it was
mates or friends.
Mates, that's right. Two other neighbors, with a U, brought blankets and pillows. Well, that was nice. Operators called back a few times to little effect. Nathan, who was 16, seemed to be in shock. Well, if you got broken bones, sometimes you'll go into shock from broken bones. He required repeated reassurance that he wasn't going to die. After a half an hour, the police arrived. Initially, they seemed more... After a half an hour, the police arrived. Initially, they seemed more concerned about the alleged moped theft. They had a run-in with Nathan and his mates earlier that night, than about his injury. But as they realized that he wasn't putting it on... English speak, you make me laugh. Their focus changed, and they were clearly exasperated. Over the radio, they were told that an ambulance was out of the question. The service was in, quote, Surge Purple Enhanced. I'm not even joking. That is Jared, I want...
It's in a Surge Purple Enhanced state. What does that even mean?
Once vanishingly rare, now quite common. All right. Now I'm curious. I'm like the Curious George now. I have to know what a Surge Purple Enhanced state is. Surge Purple.
I'll search it. You continue talking.
What? Folks, this is so ridiculous. But yet, it's ridiculous, and this is where your hippie liberal puke face Obama voter friends, this is the direction that they want to take us. All right. So long story short, the kid there lays on the ground, blah, 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 blah. No ambulance is available. Cops are standing around. They don't know what to do. The best estimate they could give on time of arrival for Nathan was 5 hours. All right. So I'm going to stop talking about that while Jared looks up this Code Purple Surge or whatever it is. Is it like a grape soda kind of a thing? I don't know.
North Face came up because they have a Surge Purple jacket.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, it says, I'm guessing it's like a...
Surge Purple Enhanced.
Yeah, Surge Purple Enhanced. It says that it was...
Is it like Code Red?
I would assume it's something to do with the high volume of people being hurt or something. I don't know, because it says it was enacted during the 7/7 London bombings.
Okay.
A Surge Purple Enhanced, it's a serious call.
Okay. All
Surge Red is bad news. Purple means a major incident or a catastrophic situation.
Okay, so there's a catastrophe going on. It's so bad
so
that they
this
can't
wreck was a Surge Purple.
Well, I don't know. But, folks, there's so many things wrong with this story. All right, step number one. we have an injury. And they're like, well, this kid might have been a little piece of crap and he might have stole a moped or what have you. Okay, well, whatever. But what we have is a Homo sapien, a human being who has been injured. All right, bam. So we call 999 or 911 here in the colonies. You call 911 and they're like, okay, we'll send somebody eventually. So you realize that the kid actually is injured. So what is the response of the people who see the injured kid? Jared, what's the response?
Call the
well,
state
after they
because
call, all right, they call 999, and now what?
they just wait.
Wait, and it's freezing, right?
Yep.
So they said
They brought him blankets and
they
pillows.
brought him blankets and pillows. And so here we got a kid on the ground laying in the street who's obviously injured, maybe a broken leg, fractured leg, something, right? Trying to get up, can't get up, so obviously has some type of a major injury. It's freezing outside. They call and they're like, well, we don't have any ambulances available. Eventually we'll send one when we get around to it. Police show up 30 minutes later, which is a long response time. Dude, even out in the county, you get less than a 30 minutes response time. All right, but the police show up. Okay, now you have recognized authority figures who are on scene. And they figure out that, okay, this guy's not putting it on. That he's not kidding, he actually is injured. So you have the authority figures, which are the police there, and they have an injured person in front of them. And so they call, and they're like, hey, send an ambulance. And the operators on the other end say, it's out of the question. We're in Surge Purple Enhanced, and it's going to be several hours. Okay, folks. Whew. Wow. Number one, as a police officer, cops are usually the first person on the scene for an injury, which is why cops need to be taught first responder medicine, why cops need to be taught basic life-saving steps. I'm not talking about IV bags and all kinds of lactated ringers and stuff like that. I'm talking about the simple stuff. There's a guy, and he might die before the ambulance gets here. What can we do to keep that from happening? Stopgap field medicine. Stop the major bleed. Open the airway. Plug any holes. If there's a hole in the chest cavity, plug it. Make sure that they've got an airway. All that kind of stuff. Basic stuff that you can do with your pocket lifesaver kit on the side of the road. All cops need to be taught that. As a police officer, I was first on the scene of several injuries. As a matter of fact, Jared, do you know the story about the kid getting hit on his bike? All right. Kid, I don't know, he was 10 years old or something.
Bicycle?
Yeah, bicycle.
10-year-old
he was
kid,
he was like 9 or 10 or something. He was a little kid. And I was running radar. It was like in the afternoon in the summertime. And I hear the ambulance dispatch to a bicycle crash, bicycle accident, one 10-year-old male injured, what have you. And they give the address. And so they're not calling me. They're not telling me, Officer Markle, go over there. They're dispatching ambulance, but I listen to the same radio. Cops listen to the same radios at fire departments and everything. And I realize that I'm like only a mile away. So I throw it in gear and whip over there. And as I pull up, I see the kid laying in the road. There's a bicycle. There's like somebody standing in the grass with a phone in their hand, looking. And I jump out of the cruiser, and I reach down, and I start pulling the rubber gloves out of my belt. I reach down, I pull the rubber gloves out of my belt, and I'm putting them on my hands as I get up to him. And I see the kid, and his face is lacerated. His face is lacerated from his lip all the way up, almost to his ear, where it's been ripped open from the crash or what have you. So I get down there, and basically all I do is I calm the kid, I put my hands on his face, and I hold the wound closed. And I tell him, hey, help is on the way. Just lay still. Everything's going to be cool. I'm Officer Markle, whatever. And within probably 2 minutes, maybe even less, I don't know, it was pretty fast, an EMT who was on the local squad, who actually wasn't even in the squad, he was in his own car, showed up. And he came running up, and he had a bag. And then him and I worked with the kid. Basically, just put direct pressure. He started ripping open gauze pads and so forth, and we put a gauze pad on the kid's face and applied direct pressure. And within, I guess, about 5 minutes or so, there was an ambulance there, and they took over and they put him in there, and they, drove away. And I just made a note in my log and moved on about my life. That was one of many instances where I was the first guy on scene for an injury. It wasn't a violation of the law. I wasn't there to arrest somebody or to investigate a crime. It was just that I was a guy, an authority figure working for the state, and there was somebody that needed help. So, and it never, there was times when I would roll up to a crash and somebody was, bleeding or whatever. I've carried out bodies and stuff like that. We're not going to talk about the bodies, but it never occurred to me as a police officer when I would arrive on the scene of an injury that, well, there's no laws being broken here, so there's nothing for me to do. That was never part of my thinking. Oh, well, there's nothing for me to do. There's no laws being broken here. I'll just call the ambulance and stand by my cruiser while this guy lays here bleeding. I always felt that and unfortunately, when I was a young cop, what they did for us in the police academy is like what they used to do all the time is they would have the American Red Cross family and first aid training. They would run you through the family first aid course. They would do Heimlich and they would do CPR and all that. And I've been through CPR and Heimlich like, I don't know, innumerable times, probably 20 times or more. But my point is this, so the police get there. They realize this kid's injured. They realize that the ambulance isn't going to get there. Now, this is the big question that probably all of you are out there in your seats squirming around, and you're trying to say, it's like, why didn't the cops take the blankets, bundle this kid up, put him in the back of a cruiser, and drive him to the hospital? Jared, did that occur to you?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing.
How do you just leave someone there?
I don't know how. What is breeding that mentality? I don't know. Lack of responsibility.
I'll tell you what it is. It's this slave mentality. It's
like, somebody else will do it.
It's the slave mentality. Not only that someone else will do it, but that I don't have the authority to do it. I'm not allowed. I'm not a professional. They've bred into. I'm sorry if you're listening to me in merry old England right now. I feel sorry for you. I really do, because you are in a nation of weak tax slaves, and you're going to be destroyed unless a miracle happens. You're going to eventually be destroyed from within. Sorry, it's going to happen, and we're going to sit over here in the United States. We're going to watch it happen. But you're so weak. You're so frail and fragile, and you've gotten to the point where you're such slaves that you can't even do what's right. You can't even do what needs to be done. They say, oh, if the ambulance is on the way, rock on. Stabilize the patient. Do what you can for them. The ambulance will be here soon. But if they say, we don't have any idea when it's going to be here, maybe sometime in the future, forget that crap. Load them up into a vehicle and take them. So, oh man, dude, I don't even know what to say about this. It's so sickening and disgusting. That whole story it tells the story of how weak and inept the people of Great Britain have become. And you're like, but Paul, I don't live in England. I don't care. You should care, because all the hippie, liberal, progressive puke faces point to socialist nations, and they say, oh, that's what we need to be like. We need to be more like them. We need to be more reasonable. You Americans have too much freedom going on here. So, folks, I tell you what, if you're carrying a gun and you haven't had traumatic medical training, you're wrong. You are. And I'm sorry that hurts your feelings, but you are wrong. You're like, well, how can I get that? It's available. Duck it. Do the research. There are classes that you can get into, that you should get into. If you think that a gun is going to solve all of the problems that you're going to encounter anywhere in the world, you're fooling yourself. A gun is simply a tool. You need education, you need experience, you need knowledge, and then you need the tools to go with those. And you can get them in many places, including Student of the Gun University. But for right now, we're going to go and we're going to talk about a little story from Kansas here. And we got this from ammoland.com. It's a theme that we haven't used in a while. We're going to go ahead and dust it off. Jared's going to dust it off. Are you ready to dust it off for me, kid, over there on the other side?
I am ready to do that.
All right, do it.
When we grew up and went to school, there were certain teachers who would hurt the children any way they could.
All right, that is our public school psychological terrorism theme from Pink Floyd. And if you're not hip to that, you need to hip yourself to it. This story comes to us from ammoland.com. Bonner, Kansas, or Bonner Springs, Kansas is the dateline. The Kansas State Rifle Association is calling for a public apology to be issued to Cameron Carlson and his mother, Deanna Carlson. 9-year-old Cameron Carlson was suspended from school for 5 days because one empty shell casing fell out of the boy's coat pocket at school on December 3rd, 2014. He had been with his mother the evening before sighting in a deer rifle for hunting, a common activity in Kansas. It says, I have interviewed the mother and find that the actions of the school are inappropriate at best. To suspend a 9-year-old child for having an empty shell casing in his coat pocket, sorely lacks any type of common sense, said KSRA President Patricia Stoneking. And then she goes on to say, it reminds me of the kid who chewed his Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun being suspended. I think we have to draw a line and choose to be more careful about what we want to classify as zero-tolerance violations. And amen to that. Amen to that. Folks, if you're just hearing about this, it's yet another and more evidence that the public schools are out of control, that the hippie, liberal, do-gooder puke faces have taken control of your children's education, and they've decided on their own, the public school system, the education system in America, and those weak-willed, spineless puke faces that are currently inhabiting it, they've decided on their own that guns are bad. And not just guns, but anything that has to do with guns, that they're bad. Pictures of guns, images of guns, objects that look like guns, fake guns, imaginary guns, fingers pointed like guns. Thinking about a gun is now a punishable offense in the American school system. How are we going to take it back, Jared?
I don't know. How are we? I think we should. There's a couple different ways, but we should start by the parents showing their displeasure to the school board, to the administrators, to the higher ups and management of the school district. This thing, it says, when Deanna Carlson, the mother, arrived at the school after being called by the principal, she found her child in tears after an alleged interrogation by the principal before she arrived, in which her son was told that this inert, empty, already fired piece of brass was dangerous. How? Okay, I bet you. What was this? How old was this kid? 9. Do they do? I'm assuming that they still do some type of chemistry in school, right?
I doubt it. It's probably too dangerous. They probably don't talk about that. They're going to talk about Earth Day.
Yeah, well, a piece of brass. They've got, when I was in elementary school, I remember we brought out the Bunsen burners and all this stuff, and we didn't really get to use them because the teachers showed us the stuff, but we got to use them in middle school. But the fact is that stuff there's more dangerous stuff in that school than a piece of brass, like a pencil. That's sharp. And
you think they have knives in the cafeteria?
Yeah,
the cafeteria workers
forks,
use sharp objects to cut up the food. Yeah, the fact that an adult human being, did it say whether the principal is a male or a female?
Nope.
Yeah, folks, the fact that an adult human being could hold an empty shell casing and say that it was dangerous, and that by having it and possessing that, you are presenting a danger to others. A fact that an adult human being would say that and assert that and think that it's true in Kansas, of all places. And, you know, folks, there are people living in every state, even in free America, that are ignorant and that are indoctrinated, that have been indoctrinated into this. You know, they listen to Shannon and the sandwich makers, that guns are bad and blah 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 blah. You want to take your schools back? Do you or don't you? I don't know. You may not. I don't. I'm tired of them. I'm not going to play in that sandbox anymore. I'm not going to participate. We stopped participating in that sandbox many years ago. But folks, when you go to these PTA meetings, these PTO meetings, these whatever public forums, and the dad stands up and gets angry and says no more, and then the school board calls the police in to arrest him,
and nobody else does
and
anything.
No one, yeah, exactly. That is exactly what I was going to get at, Jared. All the rest of the cowards in the audience just sat there and allowed it to happen. When that dad got arrested for disorderly conduct for exceeding the 90-second rule, yeah, that was his crime. Was he spoke after the school board member had told him to stop speaking.
I got a question. Who pays that school board member's salary?
The state, the government.
Yeah, where do they get their money? From that dude that was trying to tell him?
No, they just get money from this big bank.
Well, they are printing it now.
Yeah,
so technically they do just get it from the government.
So, folks, if you have any hope or inclination of taking your schools back, you need to support each other. You need to not allow people to flounder all by themselves. You know, when a dad is angry over something that the school has done, which is clearly wrong, everyone needs to stand up and say, okay, deputy, if you're going to arrest people, you need to arrest all 50 of us.
How about you get off your phone and actually do something?
Yeah, instead of
worrying about getting your
video
out there.
YouTube videos. Folks, I don't know what to tell you. I've been telling you for a year or more that you need to take your schools back, but you don't want to do it. Well, that won't happen in my school because I live in Kansas. That won't happen in my school. I live in Texas. That won't happen in my... It's happening everywhere. It's happening everywhere because paying attention and being involved apparently takes a lot of effort, and nobody wants to do it. So, yet again, more public school terrorism. So we got a kid who's suspended for 5 days because an empty piece of brass fell out of his pocket. Man, that's dangerous. No, what that is that's public school psychological terrorism. We're trying to psychologically terrorize these kids into also being afraid of anything firearms related. That's exactly 100% what this is all about. It isn't about safety. Don't buy into that bullcrap. It's about indoctrination. It's about brainwashing your little kids into being afraid of anything firearms related. And it's up to you. You may, do you still think you're a free man? Maybe you are. Maybe you aren't. I don't know. All right, moving on. We've got a situation that should never have ever happened, and we think it may be a lie because, well, it happened in the District of Columbia. Breaking news. Black male in trench coat stabs 5 people in popular D.C. restaurant. And this is Dateline December 28th, 2014. A black male entered McFadden's Restaurant and Saloon on Saturday night and stabbed 5 people before fleeing the popular establishment. There were reports of blood all over the floor. Now, this was in the District of Columbia, right? What do we know about D.C. and guns and being
You're not
able
allowed
to
to
carry
defend
guns
yourself.
and so forth? Well, they have very, very strict gun laws in D.C. So because they have strict gun laws, that obviously negates any type of violent crime that may occur there. Is that correct? I thought that that the powers that be have told us that all you need is more gun laws to keep people safe. It's all about safety. Apparently, this guy figured out that you can still use sharp objects to injure humans. Yeah. So, what do you? All right, you guys are smart students of the gun.
What I was surprised that they actually gave a description of the person.
Yeah, they should have just said a person with
Yeah.
a knife. A nondescript person with a knife. Well, this came to us from the gatewaypundit.com, and they're not so politically correct.
Well, Washington Post.
Oh, the
the
Washington-
police is what I'm saying. The police actually issued
They
a
allowed that to
description.
get out? Oh, my
Yeah,
Lord.
a black man of medium height wearing a trench coat, plaid shirt, black or blue jeans.
Ooh.
That's like a full description.
Wow, that's crazy. Somebody's going to get in trouble over that.
You might
Somebody's
actually
gonna
be able to find the person.
Someone's going to be suspended. Now, riddle me this, Batman, all you smart students of the gun out there. What do you think is going to be the D.C. government's response to this attack? What do you think? What's Chief Twisted Panties up there? What's her name? I don't know, and I don't care. But you guys have a cop chick up there in D.C., Chief Twisted Panties. That's what we're going to call her from now on. Chief Twisted Panties, who doesn't think that you need to be armed. And she said that living in an area with high crime is not a reason to be issued a concealed carry permit. You remember that? Yeah, that's a quote from Chief Twisted Panties.
You shouldn't need a reason,
You
but
should-
that's
yeah.
beside the point.
Do you think that the D.C. government and the slave masters will reduce the impediments or make it easier for the citizens to be armed? Or do you think that they'll call for stricter gun control and knife control? What do you think? You're smart students of the gun.
There's no update to this story. I haven't found one yet, but this dude apparently is still not caught.
Huh. Well, I mean, if they do catch him, and let's say the police find him and he pulls a knife on him and they shoot him, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You don't want to catch criminals, because if the criminal isn't the same skin color as the police officer when he catches them, then it's racism. Did you know that?
Did you see the story about the dude that was carrying a rifle down the street, and the cop got out and they got into a firefight, and the dude got shot and the cop died?
No.
And the family said the family's opinion was that the cop should have just stayed in the car and that wouldn't have happened.
What?
Yeah. I'll have to give you that story.
Oh, okay. That's crazy talk. But all right, folks. Well, that wraps it. That puts just the pin in this today's episode of Student of the Gun Radio. We hope that you're enjoying the new format. That we're going to spread it out for you guys, so you can commute back and forth every day and listen to us. You are welcome. Be sure to thank the people who make it available to you. That would be, of course, the Excess Sights, fastest sights in any light. Velocity Triggers, Colt at Colt.com, SWAT Fuel, and last but certainly not least, our friends at Brownells. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we will talk to you tomorrow. Remember, you are a beginner once, but you should indeed be, what? A student for life.